All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you to everyone for joining today. Sorry for starting a couple minutes late, but I appreciate everyone who is on here and is hanging in with us. Okay, so I'm Kim from Arrows, and as you all probably know, today we're going to be talking about some of the challenges that people in the real estate industry and prop tech industry are facing, mostly operationally. We've got a panel of HubSpot experts and real estate industry experts here. So I'll let everyone kind of do their intros and talk about kind of their background, why they know the space. And then we're going to jump into kind of some of the challenges that we're seeing from our customers in the real estate space, and then dive into some of the kind of more unique solutions that we're seeing and hearing about in HubSpot that people might not be aware of, and really want to show what's possible in HubSpot with some kind of integration, some kind of custom builds, and what's kind of out there in the real estate space. So if you have any questions at any point, we will have time for a Q&A at the end. So we'll have about 10 or 15 minutes at the end. So drop any questions along the way. Again, HubSpot experts here, so hopefully we'll have some ideas for people. But if we can get started with some intros. Ryan, if you want to kick us off.
Sure. Hey guys, Ryan Quinn here. I'm a solutions architect at Aptitude 8, elite HubSpot partner. I have about 2 to 3 years of HubSpot experience consulting, and I've worked with tons of companies, from SaaS companies to real estate companies, lenders, you name it. We worked with them. And I also moonlight as a real estate agent myself, so I have about 1 to 2 years of real estate experience selling into real estate. So I do have experience there and can kind of speak to how things work behind the scenes as a realtor, working with people in insurance, title companies, and things like that. So that's kind of my background.
Steve, you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Steve Richards. I am a senior inbound consultant at HubSpot in our professional services department. So my day-to-day typically looks like working with some of our more advanced customers on connecting the dots within HubSpot. So a lot of the customers that I've worked with in my past 2.5 years here are in that real estate prop tech space. So that is why I'm here today to help, again, connect those dots a little bit more. I'll toss it over to David.
Nice to meet everybody and appreciate you joining us this morning. I'm on the West Coast. I lead partnerships for PandaDoc. So our mission as a company at PandaDoc is to help businesses close agreements faster, more efficiently. As a result of that, as everybody on this call knows, the plethora of documents associated with property management and real estate transactions can be overwhelming. And so as a result, PandaDoc is able to service a number of those customers, really facilitating that whole process of the signing process associated with real estate transactions.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So let's dive into some of the kind of challenges overall that we're seeing in the real estate industry. And Brian, if you want to kick us off on this one as well.
Sure. Yeah, so overall, I think there's a lot of challenges as a real estate agent working, and essentially they're their own business, right? So they have to sell, they have to create processes that allow them to sell well, and there's a lot of back-end admin work that they have to do as well, especially if they have maybe a bigger team. So they're managing other people as well on top of trying to produce and sell real estate themselves. And so there's a lot of different moving parts to being a realtor. And I think that's where there's a lot of challenges. Obviously, time is very important as a realtor. And so you have to be able to be efficient with your time. And there's a lot of operational inefficiencies to being a realtor when you've got so many different systems that you're working in. You've got, e-signatures for your contracts. You've got a CRM. Sometimes realtors will have CRMs provided to them and tech stack provided to them by their broker. But a lot of times these platforms are not integrated well together. And so they've got different silos that they're noticing, and it makes it difficult for them to do their job efficiently and just get back to selling like they should be spending their time selling. And so that's where a lot of the challenges as a realtor that I see are coming from. just the data silos, the kind of separate systems that they have to be in on a day-to-day basis, while they're also trying to sell at the same time.
Yeah, I think we talked about this yesterday a little bit too, but most of my family is in real estate. And I hear this from my dad, who's a realtor, all the time. But he is in real estate because he loves showing houses. He loves talking to people and kind of being out with his clients. And then the part of his job that he hates, that I think is common across all real estate agents, is all of the paperwork that comes once you've actually closed a deal and all of the operational kind of admin work. And he's always trying to get that off his plate. And I think to your point, Ryan, and kind of the whole point of this too, is like, it's all disconnected. It feels like it's not super well thought through for a lot of people. And there's just a lot of opportunity to streamline that kind of admin work that people generally hate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Steve, I think from the PropTech side of things, you're kind of seeing similar kind of challenges or similar pain points from your customers on the HubSpot side too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think as PropTech companies are kind of scaling, getting a bit more advanced, it's almost similar to what Ryan was just alluding to from a disparate system standpoint, and data is in different places. I'll use a pun here. That's why we're called HubSpot. It can be a hub for your data, to kind of pull the info from those systems to make this a bit easier. So something that I'm seeing quite a bit in the PropTech space is kind of leveraging HubSpot to understand, health score indicators is one example that I'm coming across right now of like, how are our customers interacting with our tech? I think HubSpot's a great solution, potentially to that question for sure.
Awesome. Anything else you all are kind of noticing in the real estate industry as operational challenges, or kind of why people are coming to you all for help inside HubSpot?
I think operationally, a lot of it has to do. There's a big pain point with new agent onboarding as well. That's a big pain point for real estate brokers. Is how do you manage bringing in new people and getting them to be successful? And so that's where I see a platform like Arrows coming in to play and really helping out with that onboarding experience for new agents. That's one of the biggest things that a broker thinks about is new agent acquisition and retention. They want to bring people on and they want to keep people. And so they need to be able to provide the service and the kind of the infrastructure that would support a new agent, and also the training and being able to get them off the ground and selling as best as possible, and then managing that as well and maintaining that support for the new agents.
Awesome. One thing that we all kind of discussed as well is kind of the current climate of real estate and the economy and how that's impacting everyone in the industry. Any kind of thoughts on that y'all want to share?
Yeah, I think like at a macro level, real estate has been pretty slow the past year and a half to 2 years. It was really good after COVID, sales spiked, and then kind of early last year, things kind of started to drop as interest rates went up. And, the Fed just announced that they're going to be lowering rates again this fall. And so as things start to normalize, I think it's going to be really important for real estate agents to kind of prepare operationally and all the things that happen behind the scenes that they need to get right to kind of prepare themselves for that influx in sales and starting to be busier again as things start to normalize. So I think that's where kind of HubSpot can come into play and kind of be that unified system that integrates, your e-signatures through like PandaDoc. There's an MLS integration that is developed by Happily. And so being able to really have one centralized HubSpot for all their data and all their systems and all their kind of infrastructure that runs their business is going to be very important.
Totally. Cool. That makes sense. Yeah, I think at Arrows, we're working with exclusively HubSpot customers now, and we definitely see that people are coming to us and kind of getting ready to expand their operations when they're planning to scale. So I think it's a really good point that like hopefully things are going to be picking up again in the real estate industry. So kind of before the calm before the storm is the time to kind of get operational stuff in order for sure. Okay, cool. This is all really helpful. I think let's talk a little bit more about what's out there and what we're seeing for kind of some of the solutions, some of the more unique capabilities that we're seeing inside HubSpot right now. Yes, I don't, Steve or David, if you all want to kind of kick things off there and what you're seeing for, I mean, David, I know you've got some cool things on the PandaDoc side too for kind of getting a bunch of documents signed at once.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, when we started the journey with architecting the solutions with Aptitude 8, to reinforce, we wanted to position HubSpot as a single source for data, for workflows, etc. And we identified a number of workflows from a documents perspective that we could leverage to help with regards to closing those transactions easier. So e-signature is very straightforward. I think we all understand the value of that with getting, all that paperwork done quickly and electronically. But we also have functionality within HubSpot that allows the different sides of the party to actually join in a deal room where you can actually upload a lot of the contracts, the disclosures, the agent agreements, all of those documents into one central repository where both sides can then interact, can redline, can discuss, can collaborate. All of that is available in that deal room. And having that deal room really centralizes all the paperwork. Imagine, like when I was going through this, I had paperwork literally in email and attachments and, all over my desk. So now we can centralize all that paperwork and we can build workflow from within those deal rooms. So first step, you get your agent agreement signed. Second step, you get your disclosures reviewed and signed. Third step, you start getting your contract signed. So that deal rooms functionality we find is something that's, unique with PandaDoc that, we could offer up through HubSpot.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the key point there too is that it's all integrated in HubSpot. So the point is you're kind of like running HubSpot as your centralized place for all operations, and PandaDoc is really tightly integrated. So you can have those documents synced to HubSpot and it's not a completely separate tool again.
Yep. And happy to add a little bit more there too, Kim. David, I'm really excited to explore that more myself. Again, thinking back to like my closing process, like you were just referring to, like that would be incredible to be able to kind of go from a buying perspective, I suppose, to be able to kind of have that repository. I think, Kim, going back to what you were just saying earlier a little bit about the calm before the storm and what Ryan was alluding to, like using this time to set your, potential agents up for success. Using HubSpot, we just keep seeing more and more improvements. Again, I'm just speaking more anecdotally from the HubSpot side, but PandaDoc is a leader in that space as far as kind of releasing newer and, improved functionality. And David, we're going to have to schedule some time so I can dive into that a little bit more myself too.
Awesome. I know one of the other things that we've all been excited about is and I don't know too much, so Ryan, you'll have to kind of take this, but it's possible to actually integrate MLS data into HubSpot as well. So if you could speak to that and kind of what that opens up for real estate agents too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the MLS integration is developed by Happily, and it basically just connects HubSpot to the MLS. And so I think what is really powerful about that, and I think what makes real estate on HubSpot really powerful, is having that live data from the single source of truth of your local MLS brought into your CRM. From there, you can do so many things. You can basically sync that MLS property data to deals, where then you can pull in the information directly from the MLS into your contracts. And so that's where I see the power of this kind of unified CRM. Everything is integrated as really powerful because you can pull that data in directly to HubSpot, directly to your contracts. And so instead of having the data and having to kind of manually enter in the data into your contracts, you can have everything just streamlined and made easier for the real estate agent. I think that's super powerful. You can do tons of other things when the data is in HubSpot. So I think that is probably the biggest thing about real estate on HubSpot is this integration and kind of just bringing all that data in so that you can manipulate it. You can create automation around listings being updated, the status being updated, creating deals, associating deals to property listings, and just automating the whole process. You can even do cool things like, let's say that somebody fills a form out on your website and wants to inquire about certain properties. If your MLS data is in the CRM, you can create an email module that recommends different properties that are available based on those preferences that somebody's filled out on a form. And so it's really cool, the things that you can do. You can even integrate the data into your website. If you've got Content Hub, you can pull that information directly in to your website via your custom object. And so there's just a ton of different things that you can do. And I think that's what makes real estate on HubSpot extremely powerful.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really powerful. We do have a question in the chat about, will this work with off-market properties? I'm not sure if we'll know that. None of us here are the actual developers of that app, the Real City app, but maybe Ryan.
Yeah, so off-market properties just means it's off-market, it means it's not on the MLS. So if it's not on the MLS, then it wouldn't come through. But you can always create that property if you know the specs of the property. You can always enter that as just a manual custom object record.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I think talking through the kind of integrations and how all of that works, another thing that we all talked about was, and Steve, I know this comes up a lot with your clients that are more in like the prop tech, real estate tech, actually selling to like property management companies or real estate agencies, is integrating their product data into HubSpot. It's something that comes up a lot with us at Arrows too. We're working a lot with the customer success teams to kind of post-sale. And we find that a lot of people don't even realize that that's a possibility, is kind of integrating. A lot of times you can do it via API, or there's a lot of tools that sync data into HubSpot. But I think if you could talk a little bit more about what that is unlocking for people, how you're seeing people doing it, and kind of the power behind syncing that product data into HubSpot too.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim, thanks so much for calling that out. Yeah. I think I actually would agree with that. It's oftentimes can be overlooked because HubSpot can do so many different things. It's something that I see fairly commonly is like not taking that actual data from your software and pushing it back, because I would say there's quite a few potential benefits to that. But the main one that I've been seeing come up more and more, especially this year, is really just trying to get those indicators on a potential churn is kind of, I think, top of mind, whether we're talking prop tech or that really could be industry agnostic, in my opinion, right? But like being able to pull that in to better identify and get ahead of potential churn is one of the things I think I've been talking about, honestly, the most with my customers this year, where it's just like, hey, can our success team get a better kind of picture of who may be at risk, right? One of the worst things that you could get as a CSM or a member of a success team is like, hey, I think we're going to cancel. One of the things that you can really leverage HubSpot for is to try to get the insight from your software, the usage indicators, to understand before you are going to get maybe one of those emails that none of us would really prefer to see, right? So that's one of the things I would argue I'm seeing quite a bit. We do actually have our customer success workspace that is very close. I think we'll be officially launching that into public beta about 2 weeks from today at Inbound. So keep an eye out for that. But again, it's something that I feel like it keeps coming up in my conversations with customers over and over. And I think it's another great use case for HubSpot for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We have done a lot of work with the customer success workspace and health scores, and a lot of our clients are using it. And we actually, I thought that the health scores went into public beta this week, actually. Yeah. And yeah, another conversation. But well, I will say I got a sneak peek at it actually, and got to see it with our own customer data. We're a software company. We sync our products data into HubSpot. So we're an onboarding company. We can see how our customers are using the product and activating, and then we're actually using that data inside HubSpot's Service Hub customer success workspace to calculate health scores. And obviously there's like more to set up. We've only had it for a few days, but it's really cool because you can actually get a snapshot of healthy versus unhealthy customers. And all of that is actually updated in real time, basically, because we're syncing in that product data all the time about what our customers are actually doing and how they're actually using our product, it's been awesome for us. And I feel like we're so excited about it at Arrows because we're always working with customer success teams, and it just unlocks so much post-sale kind of workflows inside HubSpot and especially inside Service Hub. So that's awesome. Steve, do you have any other kind of insight on or like best practices that you've seen for integrating that kind of data, or kind of where to start with that?
It's a great question. I think it's obviously going to depend on the tech that we're, looking at, but some of the ones that I find most important: user activity, admin activity, tracking how active are my users. That's always kind of the first place that I start, because again, if that activity is not happening, not a great sign, right? So we want to start there. I think, in addition, looking at, again, this is obviously going to vary from software to software, use case to use case, but again, just in aggregate, I think like also looking at just, again, how many folks are being onboarded into this software. Again, just those are just a few, I think, Kim, right off the bat, as far as like some general, kind of health score best practices. But I'm trying to think if another, I think that's fairly interesting is looking future to potential renewals. So again, depends on how that data is structured. Ideally, we're getting that from PandaDoc and David's team, right? And having that information, like that's another piece. I think that's not necessarily, Kim, like maybe pulled from that software specifically, but again, just in the spirit of trying to get ahead of those things, that's something else that I've been seeing quite a bit lately too.
Yeah, I think PandaDoc, we have analytics associated with, the property tech companies and their activity with their customers. And we can measure document usage, document cycle times. And these are other indicators that we can feed back into HubSpot to help provide that CSM visibility into renewals or churn risk. So it's something we do directly with our customers, but the two-way automatic sync that Ryan talked about, we want to pull as much data into HubSpot as possible to encourage better decision making for their customers.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a really common thing that we see too, is people will have a PandaDoc agreement as like the final stage in the sales pipeline. And then when that agreement is signed, you can move the deal to close one automatically and kick off like a Service Hub onboarding ticket, Arrow's onboarding plan, kind of kick off the next cycle of things, and also set up a renewal deal. And the same thing is relevant for real estate agents too. Obviously, when you sell a house, there's still going to be other things that are happening, and you want to stay in touch with those clients. So having some kind of automation saying this is when we close, but then there's a lot of things that need to happen afterward to kind of nurture that relationship, and then hopefully also be the agent for their next sell as well.
100%. I almost feel like when a document is signed, that's really when the customer journey starts. It starts with the onboarding with Arrows. It starts with all the data collection, and that's facilitated by all the integrations that frankly the App8 team has built into HubSpot. So
cool. Awesome. Any other kind of unique solutions that you all have seen? I guess, Ryan, you all at Aptitude 8 have probably seen a lot more, and you're doing a lot more kind of custom builds for people in HubSpot. I think that's one thing that you can maybe talk to a little bit, is just like how much like integrations are amazing. And we're obviously, the rest of us here are big advocates for it, but there's a lot that you can build inside HubSpot that people are probably just not even aware of, whether it's, specific to the real estate industry or just kind of sharing what's even possible.
Yeah, obviously you can do a ton of different things automation wise in HubSpot, especially when you've got that data from the MLS. That's, makes things super powerful. Some of the other use cases that I've worked with have been things like promoting open houses. So you've got, an open house that you're promoting, having some type of email drip cadence that lets people know, if you've got some type of contact list that you want to send emails, having some type of drip cadence that says, hey, we've got this open house, here are the details, and promote that open house so that people can show up and potentially buy the house, right? You can do things like that. You can do, I made a LinkedIn post about this actually, but I created a offer custom object. And so even things like, let's say you're a listing agent and you've got a property that you're trying to sell and you're receiving multiple offers from different buyers, you can have your team, let's say you have a team, an admin person that kind of enters your deals, kind of does some of the back end tasks. You can have somebody on your team add your offers to HubSpot, and then you can send out different emails, kind of configure different automation that notifies the seller, hey, you've got an offer. Like these are the details of the offer, and kind of just automate that process. So as the listing agent, you'll probably go back and talk to them regardless because you've got to discuss it. But you can automate little things like that as well. So there's a lot of different use cases that you can come up with. I haven't built every single one that's out there, but that just goes to show how much you can do with HubSpot, and what you can automate when you have all the data in one place.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I often think about like sales ops and like customer ops, like post sale. But obviously HubSpot was initially a marketing tool and it's so strong for that too. And obviously that's a huge part of real estate agents' day, I'm sure, as well, is finding and kind of getting in front of new clients. And I think my hunch is that there's a lot of kind of a little bit more antiquated ways of doing that right now. So I think it's really interesting to explore using HubSpot to kind of like automate and send high quality kind of marketing outreach to prospects too.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, anyone in the chat, definitely share any questions that you all have. We would love to kind of live kind of chat through anything that anyone has. Any other thoughts from you all here? Or anything else you wanted to cover?
I will say, just to add to some of the use cases. So one thing that realtors do on a daily basis is communicate with other parties that are involved in the transaction. So whether you're the listing agent or the buyer's rep, you're communicating to the other agent, you're communicating to title, to insurance companies, to lenders. And so being able to have even that data where you've got an associated contact with an association label, you can send email out to those specific contacts based on those labels. And so you can automate some of that communication based on whatever you're communicating to that party. But when you have everything in one place, it just again makes things that much more powerful.
Definitely agree. Cool. Well, I think that's a lot of what we wanted to cover. We can hang out here for a little bit longer if anyone does have questions that you want to toss in, or any challenges that you're seeing, or anything unique that anyone here has seen for solutions inside HubSpot. This person chatted in, they would love to connect with all or some of you while they're at Inbound in Boston. I think we'll all be at Inbound. I don't know, Ryan, Quinn, are you heading to Inbound this year?
Sadly, I will not be there this year, but you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. So
yeah. We'll send. I didn't mention this at the beginning, but we'll send out a follow-up with all the resources that have been in the chat, probably including a few others as well. And anyone can connect with anyone here. Obviously, there's a lot more power behind all of our teams too, in terms of people who can help with solutions or kind of helping to brainstorm ideas for how to run things in HubSpot too. Cool. Well, I think we can probably just wrap early. I think this was great. A lot of good content, and we will follow up, like I said, with more details, and anyone can reach out to us with any questions that you all have in the future too. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.